Right. Well, welcome everyone to Thursdays on the Stoop. Today we have Postcard as prompt, making short writing meaningful with Mary Zhou. Mary is a multimedia artist based in Philadelphia. They are the author of Cave Mouth Tongue Loose from the Head and the Hand Press in 2024, in collaboration with visual artist Nora E Luks. Mary has received support from VONA Voices, Kenyon Review Writers Workshop, and Brooklyn Poets. Their work has been nominated for the Pushcart Prize and is shared in the Offing, Fence, Foglifter, and ANMLY. Mary has facilitated community writing workshops for Wendy's Subway, Blue Stoop, and Mainline Art Center. Mary, take it away.
Thank you so much, Chris and Quinn. So good to be with you all. I'm going to pull up my slides, so bear with me for a moment. Okay, are people seeing them? Actually, let me, 1 second. I need to pull up the presenter view. There we go. Okay. All right, are people seeing the slides? Thumbs up?
Yep.
Awesome. Great. So I was telling Chris and Quinn earlier, I've done some Wednesdays on the Stoops and Thursdays on the Stoops before, but it's been a minute. So good to be back with Blue Stoop. Thank you all for making time on Thursday. So as you know from signing up, we're talking about short writing, and we're doing that through the lens of the postcard. So today, just a quick overview of what we're going to be doing. We're going to start with intros. We're going to look at some samples of really effective short writing. We're going to think about some of the considerations that might go into our own writing of this kind of work. We're going to have time to write together. And then there will be an optional time to share what you've made or what you've thought of at the end. And there will also be an optional sign up if you want to become pen pals with some people who are here today. All right. I recognize a few names of folks in the meeting, but there are a lot I don't know, and I'm sure it might be the same for some of you. So I thought it'd be great for us to do some short intros. So if you could either hop off the mic or drop in the chat your name, your pronouns if you're comfortable, and to start our short writing journey, one word to encapsulate your day so far. Okay, rolling in. Sabina, energizing. Courtney, intense with an exclamation mark. Kelsey, sticky, all caps. Laura Evers, windy. Oh, Michelle is also windy. Caroline, clearing. Megan, therapeutic. Kirby, gray. Hudson, exciting. Sam, growling. Jennifer, sweaty. Urushi, processing. Quinn, emotional. Summer, lazy. That's actually a mood. Quinn, singular. Dimitri, breezy. Crystal, slow. Grace, calm. Nadine, recuperating. Stephanie, playful. Lee is also, oh, I misread that. That's a slip. Painful, not playful. Tracy, hot. Amy Beth, hi, Amy Beth. Ghoul. Chris, groceries. True. Asta, also processing. Irit, quiet. Lovely. And if you haven't had the chance yet, feel free to keep populating the chat. If your one word for today changes, also feel free to drop them in the chat. All right. So why postcards? I'm a big mail art fan, but aside from that, there's some different things that I'm thinking about with postcards. One of which is that it's an intimate address with public visibility. And what I mean by that is that when we're writing a postcards, it's usually to one specific person or one group of people. There's real intimacy in that form of communication where you're just speaking to someone who likely knows you well. And at the same time, though it's incidental for postcards, there's an element of anybody could technically see it. If your postcard is traveling through the mail, anybody handling in the postal service could potentially see the message that you're sending. I think when we're thinking about our creative writing, we can take that sense of visibility a notch higher and think about, am I wanting to share this writing with the public in some way? Do I want to put it online? Do I want to publish it in a book or journal? And in that way, make something that is an intimate address between you and a certain other listener available for other people to also read and participate in their own way. There's also the built-in space constraint of the postcard. Depending on who you are as a writer, having a certain limit on how much space you can take up and how many words you can use to write could feel freeing or could feel constraining. Either way, I think that's an exciting opportunity to challenge yourself and generate. There's also the built-in visual inspiration. Often postcards, will have a photograph or art on one of the sides. And so sometimes that image can offer you some new ideas, colors, images, if you're having trouble coming up with something to say. Some other side benefits, I think, of postcards, they're inexpensive. They're super portable, unlike other souvenirs, which can get clunky. You're supporting the Postal Service. I think they really need it. Please do. They're just fun, and they can be repurposed as fridge decor, bookmark, et cetera, et cetera. So now we're going to explore some different samples of short and sweet writing. As you'll see, I'm going to go through the idea of postcard in a pretty loose way, but I hope it's in a way that feels generative and exciting to you too. So first, I felt like I had to pay homage to, as a poet, to Emily Dickinson. If you're not familiar, she is a really well-known New England poet who was active in the 1800s. She was known for being very private and reclusive, spending much of her life within her room in her home. And for her, what that meant is that a lot of her relationships and correspondence and communication with other people was mediated through the mail. So she was very much someone who was interested in pen to paper uh, envelopes communication. She called it, using letters, the joy of the earth. So that gives you some context for her relationship to the mail too. And so for these envelope poems specifically, she wasn't necessarily writing these to mail them to other people, but she was repurposing a lot of the materials of mail, like leftover envelopes, leftover scraps of paper, the edges of letters, little spaces within telegrams that were sent. And one of the people who collected these called them addressed to no one and everyone at once. I think that goes back to what I was mentioning earlier about intimate address and public visibility, thinking about who does this writing go out to and who might encounter it. So there are a lot of interesting things I think about her work, especially these envelope poems. I chose this one because it felt extra relevant to short writing in this short life that only or merely lasts an hour. How much, how little is within our power. And so she's really leaning into the kind of spatial constraint, but also the shape, the really unique shape of this. It looks like the folding part of an envelope. So some things to think about. How does the visual arrangement of the words subvert our expectations of what a letter should be? How does the way she makes language sound or look on the page differ from what we would expect? One thing I would note is that she gets to play around with the spacing. So we see so much air between different words. So she's really pushing, especially that first line, all the way out to the margins. We see her take advantage of not having to follow a straight line by saying both only and merely in the second line. And if anything comes up for y'all as you see these examples, feel free to throw them in the chat as well. Here's another one of her fragments. Though there are those who are shallow intentionally and only profound by accident. She feels very gossipy of her, I have to say. Um, and I love that. Something that we'll get into when we talk about considerations for short writing is it can be really helpful to start with where you are right now. Who is in your environment? What are you encountering? What is a fragment of language that you might have overheard in the course of today? And that can lead to something that is really interesting to share. And you'll notice here, again, she's playing with the shape of the form or the piece of paper that she's given. She's letting the shape of the scrap affect where she's breaking the line. Like another classic, very short form example of writing is this one that people have debated may or may not be from Hemingway, but is the for sale baby shoes never worn. And I think another thing this points out about short writing that I think is fun is that short writing can stir up more questions than it does answers. And so this one is so uh, emotionally devastating, especially in contrast to the kind of advertisement form that it seems to be taking. And it also produces a lot of mysteries. Um, who is selling the shoes? Are these their own baby shoes? Is this a reference to an unborn child? Um, so many things going on here in 6 words, right? Speaking of wearing or not wearing things, as I said, I like to break open the bounds of what I'm talking about. So when I say postcard, I'm taking it broadly to mean a short message that you share with other people. And so I'm also thinking of things like these poem caps. There's a residency in Massachusetts called the Mastheads, and every year they run a fundraiser where they have local elementary school students write one sentence poems, and then they print those poems on beanies. Um, this is one from their most recent fashion release. It says, I am the popcorn with the energy, which I love. I love all of these. There's also bumper stickers. Um, I feel like this can be an acknowledgement of environment, right? Because when we have the bumper sticker, we know that the person encountering it is in a car. We know that they're aware that we're in the car, and it can be our opportunity to play on sound, to play on our weirdly or greatly specific interests, like poems and songs of Middle Earth. There's also t-shirts, which I feel like are a very classic way to broadcast messages to other people. This is one designed by an artist named Nicholas Cevallos, and he uses the list form to broadcast to other people everyday ways of showing care. And if y'all can think of any other ways that we broadcast short messages to other people, feel free to throw them in the chat. It'll be really helpful as we go into our writing exercise later. One more kind of bursting open of what a postcard can be. Um, we'll see when we do the optional pen pal sign up at the end, but you have the option to do either a physical postcard that you mail, or you can do a virtual postcard through email. And so when we're thinking about potential ways to do digital postcard work, there's playlists, which people have very cleverly turned into a way of communicating through song titles, which can be a really cool constraint in and of itself for your writing. And then there's also the classic of text messages, which allows you to do functionally what the postcard does, right? You send an image and you attach text. So here is a sweet message that somebody sent, calling it their virtual postcard and sharing a flower that they saw. Seeing some things in the chat. Tattoos, for sure. Those are definitely physical, permanent, very permanent postcards. Flags, yep. Lawn signs and protest posters, doormats, old away messages. Yes, thank you. WhatsApp status is now. Yep. People often put a short message on a telephone pole or traffic light. Yeah, you'll see like missing ads or advertisements, collage poems. These are great. Yeah, thank you guys. And then speaking of digital physical, another thing you could do is actually translate some of these ideas back into the physical. If you're not so much into digital playlists, you could think about burning a physical CD that somebody could play in their car stereo. If you're not so much into iMessages or digital messages, you could think about leaving things like a sticky note for someone else or out in public. Oh, seeing another thing in the chat. Note in a window. Yes, definitely that too. Another digital example, there's an artist I love named Camila Janan Rashid, and she has one tab in her artist website that is specifically just a bunch of lists of weird, specific stuff. Um, so she has one part of her website that's just listing weird museums that she's visited. She tends to really like the mystical and the space and the conspiracy theory. And she leaves a little box where people who visit her website can leave her suggestions for places she can visit next. Um, so I mean that also as a suggestion that a postcard could be a list if you want it to be. It can be as specific and strange to you as you want it to be. In fact, that's probably the best. Um, and often, like with her website, we'll invite the person reading to respond in some way, whether directly to you or just reflecting by themselves. Some other digital things you could think of, emails, email signatures. You can include a little sentence or photo so that it becomes a kind of recurring digital postcard that goes with your original message. Newsletters or temporary stories like you would put on different social media platforms. We have another suggestion in the chat. Found paper, grocery store lists, etc. Yeah, that feels like a modern kind of interpretation of what Emily Dickinson was doing, for sure. All right. So as we come to the conclusion of all those samples, and before we get into our writing exercise, these are some considerations that we can think about for our own short writing. So one of the first ones we can think about, who are you writing to? It can be a loved one. It can be even a future self, if you mean for the writing to be more like a time capsule of a moment in time. I think the important thing is that it's somebody who you feel brings forward the most honest, specific, strange version of you, right? You want to feel that whatever you have to share is going to be really welcomed. Another thing that you can consider is where you are now, and that can be along a lot of different axes. It can be emotionally, what mood you're in, lately, or just in the present moment. Physically, what's in your environment? How are you feeling in your body? Is there a specific part of your body that you feel you're especially in? Like, I'm very in my mind and ruminating, or, I feel really restless and I feel agitated and I have a lot of energy in my legs and arms. You can also think about what animals or plants are around you if you feel really attuned to nature, what food you've had. I know when people travel and send postcards, sometimes they'll share the kinds of things that they've been seeing or eating, but you don't need to travel or go on vacation to do that. You have things that you're encountering right now in your everyday life. You can also share. Mentally, you can also think about what's at the top of your mind. What are you thinking a lot about? Like for the artist Camila Janan Rashid I was just showing, she's thinking about the wacky and the weird and the often alien to our lives. Next, you're going to think about what kind of form you want to use. So I've introduced a lot more beyond the conventional postcard, but you can definitely feel encouraged to use the postcard as your form. You can also think about text messages, shirts, fragments of envelopes, receipts, all the great things that you've seen in the chat as well. If you need extra inspiration, is there anything about the image on the postcard or the photo you want to share or the shape of the object that you're using that strikes you? And then lastly, what feels most exciting to say? And that doesn't have to be serious, and it doesn't even have to be facts or real. You can invent a character, If there's somebody on the front of your postcard who you want to make up a name for and a backstory, you can tell someone a joke. You can ask someone a question that you've been wondering, and you can make a list. All right. So I think we actually have a lot of time. So instead of 10, we'll actually do 15 minutes for writing. So you're going to take this time to shape your own short writing, keeping in mind those considerations. Let me actually go back and paste them in the chat just so you have them. Do. All right. If you have postcards or photos on you already, feel free to pull those out and draw inspiration from them. If you don't have postcards, but you want an image to riff off of, I'm about to show some in the next slide that you can work from. Or you can also take inspiration from some of the other samples of unconventional kinds of materials like scraps of paper, shirt designs, etc. So I will set the 15-minute timer. I will give y'all a 5-minute and 1-minute heads up and start. You have 10 minutes left. And if you feel like you've already completed a short message, feel free to create multiple. You have about 5 minutes. One more minute, wrap up those last threads. Okay, and that's time. So now we'll have the option for sharing out what you've created or what you're taking away from today's session if you'd like to share. I think because we're working with such short forms of 1 to 2 lines, Let's see, 31 people. If everybody potentially wanted to share one or two lines that they created, please feel free to. Um, like earlier, again, feel free to either drop it in the chat, or if you want to come off mic, we would love to see faces and hear voices and potentially see the objects that you're working with. I think I saw Lee was already dropping some great things. So Lee, if you want to potentially come off mute and be on video and share those objects as well, you're welcome to.
I had a lot of fun with this. Um, I kept getting ideas. My last one was those little paper bags you get now and again. I keep them to make popcorn in, but I can see myself writing on one side of them and just sticking it up on a telephone pole or the side of one of those new trash cans that the mayor has put up. And I put one in the chat that I like. I, people put out free things in the neighborhood all the time, and they put a box out and it says free. So I thought I would write underneath it, um, write me here for free advice after you take my outcasts. It's just funny.
Amazing. It's like creating your own little super local pen pal system. Thank you for sharing. I also like to share either on video or in the chat. Someone just sent a message to Lady. And says, may your coffee settle but not quicken. I hope it makes you wait. Nice little photo. Some coffee.
That's cool. Pictures in there.
I don't know if it's too loud because I'm outside, but Greek and Turkish coffee is unfiltered. So you have to, if you drink it immediately, it's like drinking coffee grounds. You have to wait like a couple minutes for all the grounds to settle at the bottom. And we drink coffee very differently in the US, but when I visit family, I like that it's always an intentional thing. Like you'll ruin it if you drink it too quickly. And I have a postcard of something similar to that picture. I'm unwilling to go inside my house, but but I have a postcard of something similar, and I was like, oh, there's nothing written on the back of it, and I wonder who I would send that to. But
Yeah,
I like the prompt.
awesome. Thank you for sharing. It's a nice little life message too. Sure. In the chat, Kelsey, photo as time travel, as communion, as connection to ancestors. What's the image that jumps to mind from your life that you would want to bloom into the future? Then shares, please read these, then call and tell me what you think. The Null Nightmare in Tongues, History of Wolves. Yeah, a list can be a suggestion of books to read too. It's great. Maybe, yeah, go ahead.
I got actually a stack of images that I was using for workshops a few years ago. So I decided to turn them into a postcard. This one is of Hogan's Alley, which used to exist in Vancouver here in Canada. It was Vancouver's first predominantly Black community. That is no longer there, but there are initiatives to try to rebuild it and bring it back. It was demolished by the city of Vancouver. So on the back it reads, "Don't be late. You'll miss out on the good company and music. It's even better before the cops get here."
Cool.
Important invitation postcard, text, you are invited to a friendship reconciliation because you're still my favorite. RSVP email address. Oh, you're getting so creative with this. Love that. still have a good amount of time, so I'm going to hold in case people want to be brave and share. Oh, maybe back. A postcard of a Monet painting. To my sister who hates paintings of ships. Is it the association with war? Dad's time in the Navy. His time away from on the Chesapeake. Does Jeff still have a sailboat? Thank you, Amy. Crystal says, Ruby, I have no idea about that community. What was it called again? That's great. And someone named Ruby just entered the meeting. I wonder if it's the same Ruby.
The computer died apparently. How much were folks able to hear? Apologies.
I was able to hear fine. Were other folks able to hear?
Great, thank you.
I'll leave it open for another minute or two in case folks feel compelled to share. Tracy has written on an old envelope. Would you like to share what you've written, Tracy? And put prompts inside. Ooh, very intriguing. If you feel like sharing.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello. Can you hear me? I'm in London. So it's really nice to be here. Can you see me?
I can.
Okay. Can you see what I've done? So I've written on the back here and then on the top.
Ooh, yeah.
And I've put not to disappoint you, but I don't think you'll find much inside. Oh, wait, I'm going to post some random story prompts, see if you can include them in a story or a song. And so then when you go inside, there's a random character and a random theme and a random setting to include.
That's fine. That's awesome. Thank you, Tracy. Looks like Demetrio says, I wonder where one could buy a box of miscellaneous old postcards for a prompt like this. Well, if you're in Philly, I know that there's a creative reuse store somewhere in the city. Many cities have them. If you just look it up on your maps for creative reuse, a lot of times they're the kinds of shops that'll have, old vintage postcards that you can buy for pretty cheap. They're usually blank. That could be a great place to source some things. Quinn wrote.
Sorry, I would just say, like there's an art store, and I had bought this for my daughter. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it, but it's My Wonderful World of Fashion postcards, which I just happen to find and pull it up but they're little postcards and they all have little prompts on them. But again, I don't, because of my green screen or whatever, you probably can't see what I did. But anyway, one was in a little jacket. And I wrote the little jacket. One of the t-shirt I wrote, I lived with intention and accidentally found purpose. And anyway, it's another place where you could find in Philly anyway, or probably anywhere that has an art store, like little postcards. And these are even more handy because they have the little prompts already on them.
Great, thank you. I also saw you put something in the chat. Would you be interested in reading it for us?
Sure. Just this is like kind of a real life. My best friend's mom just decided that she is done fighting her multiple myeloma and end stage renal failure. So I have written, your life, does it feel more short or long now that you've decided to let it go?
Thank you, Quinn. And I see a lot of people resonating with it in the chat as well. Lee says you can get free Philly postcards at FIFA Fan Festival on Lemon Hill. Great. Amazing. Thank you all. So the final thing I'm going to share is an optional pen pal sign up. I'm going to link it in the chat. Just to go through it really quickly, the first tab is going to have some brief instructions on how it works. You're going to fill out your contact information in one of the tabs of the sheet, and then you're going to choose snail mail and/or email and fill out your name there. You get to choose how many people you're open to exchanging with. You're going to highlight how many boxes for how many people. And then once people start populating it, you'll add in your name and sign up. So let's see. If folks have any trouble opening up the link, let me know. It should be set to public editing. And in case you miss it during this session, I sent it to Chris and Quinn, and so it should be going out in the debriefing.
How do we find this sign up?
So I just put it in the meeting chat. There's a link that says pen pal sign up.
Okay.
And as y'all are opening it, let me know if you have any questions.
I can't see it.
Good question, Courtney. So if you're doing snail mail, I'm going to leave it to y'all to reach out to each other through email, and you'll exchange your addresses over email. Yes. All right. With that, I will bring the session to a close. Thank you all so much for attending and spend time with me today, thinking about short writing. Thank you to Chris and Quinn from Blue Stoop for helping out and making today possible. And thank you, Blue Stoop, for having me. Thank you all.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Mary. And again, thank you all for joining us this Thursday. I'm going to post a couple links in the chat as we wrap up. As you probably know, this is a free session, but if you would like to support Blue Stoop, you can always make a donation. We've also included a quick feedback survey, which helps us apply for grants. And if you'd like to attend more events like this one, please check out the events page or subscribe to the weekly newsletter. We'll be here again next Thursday, and we'd love to see you then. Have a great day, everybody.